Hey, what's up guys? And first of all, before I begin this, I need you guys to listen to me. This what if is gonna be different. Yes, Naruto is older, and he's much smarter, wiser. Yes guys, so you're gonna see why. You're gonna hear his backstory and about his life. Just stay in tune and I hope that you guys enjoy it. So stay in tune because today I'm gonna be giving you part 1 of what if Naruto had the rarest bloodline. So sit back, relax, and I do hope that you guys enjoy. And from the comments that I've been getting down below, guys, don't worry, I see your comments. Like, what if Naruto had necromancer power and all that? I'm gonna be doing all of your what ifs. I'm just finishing up these old what ifs so I can get to the new ones. Like over in Anime King 3, I'm gonna be spitting out what if like a wazoo. Yes, guys. What if after what if some new ones are gonna be coming up very soon? I just wanna finish up some of the old ones for you guys to sit back and relax and enjoy. And you can also go ahead and check out this in the link down description. Yeah. So just stay in tune and yeah, I'm getting all of your comments. And all of my personal what ifs are going to be posting over in Anime King 3. Yes. All the one that I do on my own are going to be posting over there. Some of them I'm already finishing up, like what if Naruto's a prototype from the Otsutsuki's. So yeah guys, just stay in tune for those and I wish you guys enjoy. And yeah, if you like this and you want to see part 2, go ahead and comment down below and tell me. I'll be posting part 2 for you guys as soon as possible. So yeah, just sit down, relax and enjoy. Let's begin this new series. Do not turn away from me. 2 of the 3 people that founded the Akatsuki was currently arguing. The man with ripple pattern eyes and red hair turned to storm out of the office before he did something that he would regret. But he was grabbed, the other man stopping him and turning him back to face him. Ripple pattern eyes met blue eyes. Blonde hair and blue eyes. He was wearing the robes of the Akatsuki. Something that Conan came up with ever since they defeated Hanzo of the Salamander 2 months ago. His blonde hair came down his face, some of it covering his right eye, the remainder going down into the back of his neck, stopping. Over his mouth he had on a black mask with painted white teeth on it that made it look rather vicious. Nagato looked at the hand that was on him and slapped it away. Conan quickly intercepted as she moved between the 2 Kage 11 ninjas. As the both of them were glaring at each other, guys, Conan pleaded to her 2 childhood friend. Please calm down, she said. I let you desecrate Yaiko's body, Nagato. The blonde masked ninja said as he jabbed his finger right into Nagato's face, uncaring of Nagato's eyes that were pulsing. I looked away when you dig him up and turn him into one of your Rinnegan puppets. Now your grand plan is to contain all the nine-tailed beasts and blow the place up? Do you know how stupid, idiotic, foolish that plan is? Nagato growled. Don't talk to me about crazy Naruto, he said. Conan was now desperate as she was holding them apart, stopping them from ripping each other to shreds. Naruto, Nagato, we can resolve this, she said. No we can't, the masked ninja, now known as Naruto, said. He comes up with the stupidest, craziest, riskiest plans. And those plans always end up with all of us dead or dying. The world needs to learn how to behave. If creating a nuclear level threat is the way to solve it, then so be it, said Nagato. There you go again. There you go again speaking rubbish. Just like your plan of killing Hanzo, huh? Nagato faltered for a bit as Naruto pointed to the window where it was raining heavily and the people outside were scuffling around, trying to get their village back to normal after what happened a few months ago. It destroyed half of our homes, ruined hundreds of lives, and severed 2 major alliances with the village. You went with a plan, Nagato said. You could have left, but you did not. His voice was not raised, but you could hear the venom inside of it. I told you we could lead Hanzo away from the village and kill him in the sand, where he's the weakest. But you want him at his best. You wanted him, where everyone could see that you killed him. You wanted everyone to know that you were the new Kage. As Naruto slowly deflated, Yaiko died because of you. Don't you dare say that! My student would have lost her life as well if I wasn't there, said Naruto. As Naruto lowered his head slightly, he was put on the spot to either save his student or Yaiko. And he chose to save her. As he watched his best friend got impaled, he impaled himself on the kunai. But that situation could have been avoided if Nagato had just listened to him for once. Your pride is gonna be your downfall, Nagato. And I'm done, said Naruto. I'm done covering for you. I'm done. I don't need you anyway. You know where the door is. Get lost, said Nagato. As Naruto turned to walk away, Konan immediately jumped in front of him as she tried to stop him, but he just kept on walking despite her placing her hands on his chest. Naruto, no, we need you, she said. As he looked at her, he lowered himself as he went to her ear. He will need you. Look after him. He straightened himself back up as he walked by her, as he heard her sniffling behind him. As he closed the door behind him, the 17-year-old paused as he turned to see his student. She was 3 years younger than him, and she was also wearing the same Akatsuki clothing. She was wearing a lower mask as well, but hers was just plain red. She had long white hair with 2 bangs framing the side of her face, as she had red eyes. As she was standing right at the door of the Kage office, she looked up at her teacher, not much emotion being shown on her face. I was coming back from the medical ward because some civilian caught a disease while digging up a house. Naruto started to walk as she rushed to his side and started to walk with him. Did something happen in there? Oh, you know, Nagato has gone mad. Konan is going along with him, like usual. As the girl walked beside him, her Akatsuki robe making a bit of noise, he noticed that she was wearing a larger one, as it covered her arms, and it rose up, covering her mask as well. She was also wearing stainless steel, silver leggings that covered her toes, so he couldn't see those either. He wondered if it was because of her bloodline. She reached up and tugged at his elbow. What do you mean, Naruto-sensei, she said. Nothing you should worry about, Suwaki, said Naruto. She still tugged at his elbow. Then, where are you going, she said. I'm leaving the hidden rain. The gravity of his words didn't disturb her that much. His best friend, and she spent most of her time in the hidden rain. She simply shrugged, still holding on to his elbow, walking beside him. Okay, I only need 5 minutes to pack. I think that you should stay, said Naruto. No, she said immediately. As Naruto stopped, rather suddenly, as she bumped right into his back. She groaned a bit as she rubbed her small nose. I'm not gonna force you to come, he said. I know, she said. That is why I'm coming anyway. As she smiled, given that you couldn't see the lower half of her face. You could see it within her eyes though. It made Naruto scoff. He was the one that taught her that eye smile technique. As he thought about it, even if he ran away in the dead of night, she would find a way to track him. He couldn't shake her when he was a toddler. He couldn't shake her when he started to learn from Orochimaru. He couldn't shake her when he went out on blind dates outside of Hidden Rain. As she would just arrive at the table and take away all the attention from his date. The girl was fixated on him and he really didn't know why. Well, that was supposed to be expected from a devoted stalker like his student. She was nice company though, and she was always there when he needed someone. He sighed in defeat. Alright, he said, get your stuff ready and meet me at the west gate. Great, as she hugged him, as she then rushed off to her room on the opposite side of the tower. Time skip, the ghost of the hidden rain sat down on his bed as darkness started to come from his back. There was suddenly a poof from the darkness, and 2 clones appear, but instead of his blue eyes, they had black eyes with red iris. The clones started to gather his things, while the real Naruto looked at the picture that he had on his walls. There was one of them, of him as a 5-year-old, with his parents. They were dead now. As he saw himself clinging onto his father's left leg, as he was pointing at the cameraman, telling him not to take the picture, as his mother was holding a hand over her mouth to cover up her laughter, and his father sighed as he was shaking his leg to get the boy off. A small smile came to his face when he remembered his younger self. He was wild and rebellious. He was always having his own way, and he didn't believe in any other. That picture was taken a week after they moved from Dark Country, or you can call it darkness, to the hidden reign that was in the peak of the Civil War. His parents had seen the move for the best because no other country wanted any refugees from darkness. His father, a tall man that wore a scarf around his neck, black hair and blue eyes, promised that the hidden reign would be better than darkness. And his mother, his sweet mother, a beauty with blue eyes and soft, rosy petal blonde hair, agreed to the move. Naruto had no friends in darkness. People were always worried about the constant war, the bombings and everything. In the hidden reign they could settle down. They didn't have to deal with daily danger in their life. They stay on the outskirts of the hidden reign with his childhood friends, Yaiko, Nagato and Konan, far from the center of the hidden reign where the conflict was going on. Not to mention the conflict between them and darkness as well, where the global war was taking place. When he moved, he hid most of his face under a scarf like his father. His friends didn't even know how he looked for a couple of years without the scarf. Another picture was him, 11 years old. His shirt was covered in mud, blue pants, and a black shirt. As he was in a fighting stance, standing from him was an orange-haired boy also in a fighting stance, with a smirk on his face, mud covering him as well. As he laughed, Yaiko had challenged him to a fight, claiming that Jiraiya teaching was superior than Orochimaru's. Naruto did not care much for the fight, so Yaiko thought that blindsiding the student of Orochimaru with a ball of mud was a good idea. Hence, the twitching of his eye in the picture. Well, you can really see it. But the dark smoke behind him, well, he was a bit pissed off. That picture was 4 years after they lost their parents, and two of legendary Sanins agreed to pit them as their apprentice. Jiraiya went with Nagato, Yaiko and Konan, but Naruto refused because he didn't want Jiraiya's attention to be too divided. The last picture was him, standing in the rain, as his arm was around his student's shoulder, his hand reaching up to play with her hair while he was holding on to the camera. As she was glaring at him, both of them were in their masks, as that was the day when they went in to fight Hanzo. The story of him accepting the white-haired girl into one of their circle of friends made him smile a bit as he stood up, the clone handing him the bag, as it burst into dark release chakra. Tragedy truly brought out the best and worst in people. Flashback. For the longest time, Naruto was content in staying in the background, behind his true friends, protecting them, making them take the credit while he watched their back, and putting himself in the ways of explosions to protect them with his own body, to make sure that they did not die. That was how much he treasured them. Whenever they messed up, he came in and picked up the slack, so none of them got hurt. That was the reason he was called the ghost of the hidden reign. He was an entity, as he left a trail of body behind him, and then you wouldn't even see him. It was like a literal ghost came in and ended everything. As everyone knew it, no enemy that got near Yaiko, Konan and Nagato ever got too close before they just died, especially Nagato. Before he got his Rinnegan, Nagato had the habit of picking fights that he couldn't measure up to, physically or mentally. That was what Naruto came to find out when he came to the hidden reign. As Naruto was standing, his scarf around his mouth, as he was looking at a boy, the rain was falling lightly. The red-haired boy was cursing at three bigger boys as they knock and push him around. "Leave me alone!" The red-haired boy says he swung his fist and slammed one of them right in the arm. But the boy simply shrugged it off as he slammed his fist into Nagato's gut. Nagato dropped to the ground, coughing and wheezing. Another one then kicked him in the back. As Naruto's eyes narrowed a bit, why kick him when he was down? He was not a threat anymore. The three bullies had came to Nagato for him to give them his money. But instead of giving it, Nagato had called their mothers a word. He knew that if his mother ever heard him say something like that, she would literally murder him. Naruto knew bullying. The three boys came with smiles and laughter, asking for Nagato's money. It was in the civilian playground, as other kids were there as well, as the three boys started to beat up Nagato, but the other kids didn't do anything, as they knew that they would be a victim if they even tried to step in. He stood up from the small hill that he was sitting on as he walked over. "Hey, that's enough. You got what you wanted," he said. The boy that began the kicks looked up, as he looked at Naruto's face that was covered by a scarf, and his hand-me-down clothes. "Who the heck are you supposed to be? This has nothing to do with you, he said. The schools were underfunded because of the war. So it's not like the teachers would do anything if Naruto reported him. So Naruto was going to report the bully. As they went back to attack Nagato, only for the boy that started to be pulled back by his shirt. I said that's enough, as it was Naruto was holding on to his shirt. The boy turned towards Naruto, clearly bigger. That's it, as the other two stopped kicking Nagato, as he grabbed Naruto by the shoulder and picked him up, showing his size as over oppressive. You should have mind your own business, Scarf, he said. Naruto placed a hand over his scarf, where his mouth was, and giggled. Scarf? Really? The boy pulled back his other fist as Naruto kicked him right in the nuts. He dropped to the ground, crying in pain. Nagato had lifted his head up as he watched his savior. The other two bullets swing their fists as Naruto ducked underneath it. He moved back as he started to hop on his feet, something he remembered his uncle telling him when he was a ninja, as he told him to come with his hand. The two bullies looked down at their leader. Get him! As he rushed forward, as Naruto ducked under a punch and slammed his fist into the other boy's nuts. The boy dropped to the ground, crying out in pain, as Naruto kicked the other one right in his nuts as well. The most painful way to deal with these guys. As he dropped to the ground, the leader of the squad got back up, still in agonizing pain, but he was going to make this brat suffer for what he did. And not to mention, Naruto was just 5 years old. As he pulled his leg back and ducked, as he tilted his head and get back up, his eyes looking directly at the boy's eyes. The boy saw what was about to happen and he was too slow to stop it. Bam! Naruto slammed his heel into the boy's nuts. The boss dropped to the ground, tears pooling from his eyes as he screamed out in pain. The kids erupted into celebration, just seeing that kid over there defeated all the bullies. Later after school, Nagato had met Naruto. He was shocked by all that happened. He asked if they could be friends, and Naruto agreed. Later that day, Nagato introduced Naruto to his two other friends that were attending the shinobi school, Yaiko and Konan. The Hidden Rain needs soldiers, so Hanzo reduced the academy years down to 5 years old, as kids as young as 5 was already being put into the academy system. Yaiko's father was a high-ranking shinobi that was directly under Hanzo, and Konan had an older cousin that was a successful medic. So the both of them being made to attend the shinobi school was unsurprising. Nagato, on the other hand, was too weak. Yes, he was too sickly and weak. So his thing was destined to become a civilian cannon fodder for the army. Naruto was fine in the situation as he had more people his age to talk to him. Everything was going well until a year passed and a couple from his home village, Darkness, moved into the town. Now, Darkness was rather large, so Naruto did not know everyone there. But these people were from there. They were rather pale. Konan and Yaiko had thought that all people from Darkness had know each other. But he had to tell them that he didn't know them, as his parents and a couple from Darkness had hit it off. But Naruto did not warm up to their 3-year-old child, Sakunami Ketsuwiki. And then it became weird. Said Konan, she's following you again. Naruto released a sigh. Just ignore her. She will leave eventually. She did not. She stalked the boy for another 5 blocks. As he turned, she was peeping out from a bookstore. She squeaked when she noticed that he saw her as she ducked back into the alley, closed her eyes and covered her head with her small hands. There was mud on her dress and grass as she had followed Naruto and Konan through the park and through the muddy water as well. When she thought that he was gone, she poked her head back through the alley, only to jump as he was standing right there. I told you to leave me alone. Do you want me to hit you? Naruto asked as he waved his hand. Konan pushed his hand down. Naruto, stop. You're scaring her. He removed his hand from her grasp, glad that she couldn't see his cheeks blush a bit at her making contact with him. Good. She should be scared, said Naruto. Get lost, weirdo, he said. The girl fled away, and Naruto thought that finally did it as they made their way. But it did not. A matter of fact, the stalking got worse. Yes, when her parents came over, and Naruto's parents allowed her into his room, as Naruto came home to see Suwaki there. As she rummaged through his things, as she looked through his book, As she saw his handwriting, she also rubbed her face into his pillow. She then learned how to read and write the basics after next week. That surprised her parents and Naruto's parents as well, as she was advancing so quickly. And his parents asked him to be nice to her. At the moment, he was walking through the park, as she was trying her best to keep up with him because he was walking rather fast. Was it, she said, as she pointed towards something. He stopped. As he looked over, "That's a worm," he said. Her tongue stuck out from the corner of her mouth as she pulled her notebook. "Worm," she write. As she write www. She then paused. Naruto-sensei? "Spell worm," she said. As Naruto sighed, "I'm not your sensei." "I'll spell it," said Yaiko, as he was there as well, as he gave the girl a bright smile. The small child turned towards him. If there was a way that looks could kill, Nagato would have died a horrible, torturing, pain-filled death. As Suwaki looked at him angrily, she gripped onto her pen tight. Yaito stepped back. As she didn't speak, she just glared at him. And surprised, she threw down her book in outrage. She then clenched her fist, copying something Naruto did, as she threw them forward. Naruto stepped in front of her and placed a finger on her forehead, as she kept on swinging her fist, her eyes closed. "I think you made her mad," said Naruto. "Well, you can calm her down," said Yaito, as he always said that she had a crush on him. She always looked at him like he was a gift from God or something. As Naruto was tired of chasing her away because she just wouldn't leave him, he scoffed. She was really weird. "Stop, okay?" said Naruto. She paused, hearing his voice. "Okay," she said. "Alright, worm. WORM. Are you happy now?" he said. She quickly picked up her book as she wrote the words in. "Yes, I am," she said. She wasn't big on smiling, and now that she was following him and wearing a bandana on her face as well, he could only see the look in her eyes sometimes to know when she was happy. As she pushed her book in his face, "Is this it?" "Yeah, sure," said Naruto. As the group kept on walking, Suwaki then saw the earth, another brown part of it that looked different from mud. "What's that?" she said. "Dog poop," said Naruto. As the others started to laugh. A year passed and the war reached their town. A swarm of samurais flooded into the town one day as they took down the guards rather quickly. They hid amongst them. A day later, the hidden shaky allies, came to help get the samurais out. Nagato, parents had been killed by the samurais. Yaiko didn't have a mother and his father was on the front lines. After all, he was under Hanzo. So they came to Naruto's house. The next day, when Naruto's parents were ushering them out of the house so they could flee to Fire Country, his parents accidentally stepped on an active mine that was set up by the Hidden Stone Ninjas. As Naruto's mind had went blank when he saw his parents' scattered bodies. But he had to find a place to get his friends before they got hurt as well. He had to keep them safe. In his search after storing Nagato and Yaiko under a shrub to keep them safe, he found Konan. She was holding on to her mother's severed head. He gently pried the head away from her arms and hugged her tight and allowed her to cry. The iron samurais and the stone shinobis had taken their war further away, but they left behind a lot of chaos and conflict. As he walked through the town with Konan, houses had collapsed. As Naruto found Suwaki pulling at a hand from a rubble, it was her house that had broken down. She wasn't smiling, or crying, or showing no emotion. She was just pulling, trying her best. It was like she already knew that she was holding a lifeless hand in her own, but she couldn't accept the fact that her parents were gone. As Naruto made his way over, no matter how annoying she was, he couldn't leave her. As he held on to her, she buried her face into his chest and just held on to him. Naruto was just happy that she was alive, as he carried her on his front and Konan on his back. His whole body was shaking as he walked, as his parents had just been blown up right in front of him. But he had to get them to safety, as he made his way where Nagato and Yaiko was. He didn't comment too much when he saw that Nagato's eyes had changed, as they were now purple with strange circles. For what felt like months, Yaiko, Konan, Nagato, and Suwaki was lost. They lost hope and determination. Their eyes just stared out at nothingness most times. No longer the sparkful eyes of children. It was gone. They lost everything, but they had each other. But they noticed one of their friends. Despite them being hungry sometime, he always, no matter what, got them something to eat and always find somewhere for them to sleep. As Naruto had to grow up to protect his friends, as he snuck into enemy camp and steal food, enduring the beatings on the unlucky day that he was caught, suffering. He sacrificed his sleep so they could rest. He sacrificed his food so they could eat. He sacrificed his body so they wouldn't get hurt. And that made Naruto start to think about the world, as he was just a tiny speck. As he thought about juggernauts who could shoot the entire place with just a mere action, while he was nothing. He could tell that his friends were physically and mentally broken, as it was hard for them to do things most time. And he was just as broken as well. But the awareness that his friends were still here with him, he had to force all of that thought down and help them. Orochimaru had wrote a journal about Naruto life. Before the battle in the Hidden Rain with Hanzo, Naruto gave it to his student, as she really loved it. As Naruto managed through for 2 painful years, and made sure his friends had their spirits up despite the painful war going on. The first person to break out of it was Suwaki. She was already stalking him and already doing everything that he said, but now that he took care of her, when she couldn't take care of herself, she devoted her life to him, always listening to what he said no matter what. It was her way of coping, even though she took it to the extreme. And he wouldn't judge. At least she was getting a little bit better. Konan had caught a cold, and Naruto gave her his scarf. He found a sand shinobi that was dead, as he had took the man's mask as a replacement. Suwaki adopted a half-face mask not even a week later. The Sanins then came, and he was going to teach them, but Naruto denied, as his attention would be split too much. He told him to go and help Konan, Yaiko, and Nagato, as he could teach them. Orochimaru at the time was feuding with Jiraiya for Tsunade affection, so he chose to teach Naruto and his student, as Naruto said that she was too young though to be learning these things. Orochimaru had backed away when he discovered that the mask wearing blonde had 2 very powerful bloodlines. While Tsunade went back to Konoha, Orochimaru and Jiraiya stayed behind and trained their new students. 5 years passed until they were ready enough. They used the skills that they had acquired to defeat Hanzo the Salamander, and the fight was brutal. It ended with all of them crossing out the Hidden Rain head protectors with a line through it at the grave of their fallen comrade, Yaiko. And that has been his life so far. In the flashback, as Naruto made his way, as the rain was falling, the Akatsuki robes only reached his mid-calf, so the rain still soaked in his sandals. But he wasn't bothered after all, he grew up with wet shoes. As he flicked away the bang from his right eye, as he saw some people huddling, as there was a stand there with someone passing out warm food, as a boy about 10 years old turned, along with his sister, as he placed a finger towards his mask, telling them not to say anything. They gawked dumbly to who they saw, the one that helped defeat the former tyrant of the Hidden Rain, Hanzo, and the only one that can stand up and pose a challenge against their new god of the Hidden Rain. They were surprised. He walked into the darkness as he was gone. About a mile away from the gate, darkness emerged as Naruto stepped out. Suwaki came panting. "Didn't you say meet you at the gate?" As she was still wearing the Akatsuki clothing. "I did," said Naruto. As she looked at him, "Was it a test?" she asked. "Yep." "Did I pass?" she said. "No," he said. She didn't have anything on her. Like her mentor, she sealed away in a storage seal that was right on her upper arm. But unlike him, she had to run for at least 5 seconds to make her way. She walked beside him. She knew when he was in a bad mood most times, and now he seemed rather, well, upset. As they made their way, they were still in the rain territory. Nagato wanted to merge all of this together. They had big plans, but Nagato No wanted to do something stupid. He wanted to start another war, as Naruto saw no way how this would end wisely, collecting all of the bijus and creating a weapon. He couldn't find himself to protect his Rinnegan bearer friend once again. Yaiko wouldn't have wanted this if he was alive. As Naruto knew that much, Konan didn't want it, but she followed Nagato. Because of their promise to Yaiko, it was why Naruto didn't ask Konan to come with him. Nagato had her in a cage, and her unadjusted mind told her that she should stay in that cage. Yaiko's death affected them all, even little Suwaki, but it affected Konan even worse. The whole thing was just frustrating as he released a breath. Suwaki then spoke. "So, where are we going?" she said. His answer surprised her. "Kiri." Time skip. Despite being a girl that knew how to suppress her emotion, Suwaki forehead crinkled a bit as she grabbed her sensei by the back of his cloak. As he was holding on to a man, he held him by his shirt. The man was in agonizing pain, a few broken ribs, and a broken nose. As he pulled back his fist and smashed it in the drunk man's face. "Sensei, no," said Suwaki. "Give me a minute," he said. As the whole bar was in chaos, a lot of bodies on the floor, the patrons cowering in the corner, some of them running out quickly. As he released the man's shirt as he was unconscious. "You're drunk," said Suwaki. He pushed her away. "I'm not drunk," he said. "I can't get drunk." She knew that fairly well, as his cells were fast, his metabolism, so it was hard for him to get drunk. But she quickly wrapped her arms around his waist and pulled him back as hard as she could, as his instinct was telling him to swing his arm back. But no matter, in this kind of hazy state, he would never hurt her. She pressed her face into his back and spoke. "Let's get out of here before Kira ninjas arrive," she said. As Naruto reached up and rubbed his forehead. "Fine," he said, as he kicked the man on the ground in his ribs. "I was done here anyway." The night had started like every other night for the past 3 months, with Naruto leaving their sheer apartment, making his way to the bar in the mist, and starting problems. Suwaki knew that there would be a blowback from leaving the Yin Rain, leaving his childhood friends, but she never thought that it would put this on her sensei. She could see it every time he drank sake, that emptiness in his eyes, that void look. Naruto was lost. He was in a lot of pain. All the pain that he should have felt after losing his parents, after losing his childhood to war, after losing Yaiko, every single thing. It was coming up. And he was lost. He was lost in that pain. He didn't know what to do himself, thinking about the life that he left behind, thinking about the torment, thinking about his friends, all that he went through, and thinking about his life that he just left. His memories started to drift on when his parents promised, every night, they tuck him into bed, that they would be there with him forever. Orochimaru also made that promise. But he left for Konoha, and that had broken Naruto's heart once again. Another precious person, leaving him alone. Night after night, he hoped that alcohol would put him out, for him to actually get fully drunk, but it didn't work. And his anger was taken out on anyone near to him that slipped up or spoke in a way that he didn't like, except for Suwaki. As he tried to scurry around her the most, but she was always there, always stopping him from getting too dangerous. And despite the mask on his mouth that he never removed, he always drank. Day after day, he sit by the window, looking out at the mist, the thick mist in the village. While Suwaki left, as she went for her missing nins from Kiri, to get money, so that they could have food, and to pay for her sensei nightly drinks. But despite all of that, she would never leave him. He never abandoned her in her darkest time, so she would never leave him. She remembered what he said to her back then. As a 7-year-old Naruto, his legs were shaking as he was carrying Suwaki at the front and Konan at the back. "Suwaki, Konan, we're gonna be okay." At the moment, as she was helping her sensei, "Sensei, we're gonna be okay," she said. They had severed their ties to the Yin Rain. They had moved away from their 2 closest friends. She was struggling to make ends meet, working multiple jobs, catching low-level missing nins, as they were the closest ones nearby. It was them now, like it has been for the past 3 months. He just needed time to catch himself and console. "We're gonna be okay," she said. Time skip. The next day was different. They had been running low on cash, as she had already hunted all of the missing names around here. So she made her way near to the coast of the Lightning Country to catch a missing name that would last them for at least 3 days. As she returned to the home, "Sensei, I'm home," she said. As she entered, the place was dark. She made her way as she saw him sitting down alone in the darkness. A little bit of light streaming from the window. "Hey," she said. He was silent for a moment, simply looking down before he slowly lifted his head. "Hey," he said. She crossed her arms. "So, sitting in the dark, huh?" She said a small, jokey smirk. "Is this a new thing or..." She heard him laugh a bit as he sat back, the couch crinkling a bit. "I was thinking about something," he said. She looked around. The place was empty besides her and him. She wondered if it was his bloodline that made him accustomed to the pitch, choking darkness. About what? He looked at her. "Why are you here, Suwaki?" he said. She snorted like the answer was obvious. As she stepped forward, "Because I want to be here." He raised his hand, stopping her. "I'm the student and you're the master. I have a lot to learn from you." "Is that all?" he mumbled. She was 14 years old, and she was a Jonin. Of the hidden range, she was a Kunoichi. "Konan and Nagato can teach you anything you want. I don't know anything I could teach you," he said. She raised a single white eyebrow. "Come on, Sensei, that's not true. You know. Everything that I know is because of you teaching me. Plus, you're very important to me. More important than Yaiko, Konan, or Nagato. More than you would ever even believe," she said, without hesitation. He clipped on the switch. As she paused, his mask was off. "Sensei, what happened?" He clipped the lamp off. As she saw him shrug. "I don't know. Probably has to do with my double bloodlines." As she couldn't hide the surprise in her eyes to what she just saw. "It's been like that since after we killed Hanzo. But, yeah, I know. I didn't want you guys to worry. So I went to Orochimaru to ask him. I didn't take long in Konoha. Orochimaru suspect that it has something to do with my double bloodlines." He saw a look in her eyes. "You were still in the hospital. Nagato could have helped somehow," she said. "I could have. I can't help," she said. "Don't," he said. "This has nothing to do with my blood. It's been like this for months. So I don't think that it will get worse." She cleared all emotion away from her face. "What now?" she said. "Do you still want to stay?" he asked. "Yes," she said. He picked up his mask and covered his mouth. As he fixed it, he then stood up. "As you wish," he said. As he walked by her and headed towards the door. "Where are we going?" "We're going to train." This time, her eyes widened with excitement. "Yes, Sensei," she said. Time skip. The civil war that happened in Hidden Darkness, or Dark Country, sparked up a year after the Second Great Shinobi War had erupted. The country had been closed off, but the daimyo, a man that has known to be the son of a Konoha born father and a mother that was born in Dark Country, opened the borders to supply the Fire Nation with troops to help in the war. He had caved, and he allowed the bigger country to influence it. And they supplied them with ninjas to help in the war. Dark Country was rich with unique bloodlines. They were separated into different groups, but they lived well with each other. The daimyo had sell out everything to Fire Country, as he made the larger country dominated everything. So they got themselves caught up in the Second Great Shinobi War. He had given almost everything to Fire Country as a whole, except for the 7 clans. Yes, there were 7 clans at Darkness. But that left the people with nothing, seeing that he gave everything to Fire Country. Konoha ninjas run through the country and plunder the families and the clans of what they have, and the daimyo ordered them to do nothing about it. But then the daimyo signed away an entire clan, a clan known as the Kurama clan. And then the war started. Forces that were loyal to the daimyo fought against the 6 clans, seeing that the Kurama clan was sell out to Konoha. This went on for years. Konoha, getting what they wanted, they pulled out of Darkness, as they did nothing to stop the civil war that was going on there. As the war had continued, until when the leader of the Hidden Rain, Hanzo, had been killed. Yes, 2 figures had stepped into Darkness. It was no secret that the ghost of the Hidden Rain and his loyal student was born They were born from darkness. Yes. No, it was no student that they left the hidden rain and disappeared into thin air. The 7 clans, they all respected the ghost. Because he was from darkness, the man was at least double S rank. He was able to fight Hanzo the Salamander for 7 hours straight until a current Kage to gather his whips and gave his support. And now the ghost had trained his high A rank student, a white-haired girl with red eyes, that was from darkness as well. Not to mention he was rather modest. He never bragged about his acknowledgements, as he did not place himself on a pedestal or anything like that. The royal clan where the daimyo came from, in darkness, saw the ghost existence as a threat because it has been 17 years and he did not come back. No, he did not. He did not come back to Dark Country, but yet the clans admire him. So the daimyo saw his existence as a threat, as the daimyo knew that the biggest nightmare for him was if the ghost came back to Dark Country. That nightmare came through when 6 months after the second Shinobi War ended, the ghost returned. The leader of the rebellion, a man that had a rare bloodline, the Mercury released Gekigenkai, fell on his knees as the blonde came in the commander tent. The others recognized the man standing there as they bow. Lord Naruto, you have returned. As Naruto stood there unaware of his popularity in his home country, raised an eyebrow. Lord. He was then filled in on how his name has built so far, as they first saw the daimyo as a threat and he needed to be removed. But they realized their bigger threat out there. The Fire Country, it was a larger problem. The news of a single shinobi. Yes, he was rumored to have killed Konoha shinobis in the Great War, followed by his apprentice. They had found out their names and realized they had been born in darkness. More and more news came, and his name started to grow even more, for expelling Konoha shinobis from the Hidden Rain when the war was going on between the Hidden Rain and Konoha and the other countries. Despite that not helping them, they were happy because Fire Country was the main reason. They took what they wanted. They even wanted the entire clan. They were the main reason why the people are now having a civil war in darkness. So anyone that could kill so many Leaf Shinobis, they were grateful for them. But when they found out that he was literally from darkness, he was born here, that was what gave them more delight. Naruto told the man to allow the clan heads to assemble. The ninjas. Naruto was surprised at the amount of respect they had for him. Hundreds of people were on their knees, their hands over their heart, their head bowed in submission. As Naruto looked at Suwaki, she was not fully bowing, but she had her head down, showing her undying loyalty to him. It was humbling how much he believed in him, and it warmed his heart for them to think of him as a source of strength. He told them that he will end the civil war and expel all countries that has invaded their country, such as earth, fire, lightning, waterfall, and the others. But the ones that didn't cause any violence, like the river country, the sand, Kiri, Uso, those people are to be left alone. They will establish a formal alliance with those 4 places after the war. As Naruto made sure to do his research before coming to the camp, like how he knew that no self-respecting dark female would procreate with any of those that caused them harm from the other countries. But there were fathers to children from dark women. Those women did not give their consent, despite the females having wanted nothing to do with them after what most of them had done. They would fight for their children because it was still their child. As darkness started to remove all the countries that did nothing but harm them, this action caused the people to unite under Naruto to fight the royal clan that Daimyo was a part of. That made it easier. It only took 3 days. Their burned, bloody corpses were left at the edge, so the people could retrieve them if they wanted. If not, their corpses would be used as manure. More and more foreign ninjas that weren't supposed to be here were ejected from darkness. Their influence reduced. The men that the daimyo had under his command that were not from the country, yes, they started to be ejected. The royal clan that daimyo was a part of hid away as he saw what was happening, as he moved as close to Fire Country as possible, because everyone was getting wiped out. All of them were being brutally murdered by something so quick that they didn't even see coming. Only thing they felt was their head being removed from their necks. So while darkness focused on taking care of the people that did not belong there, him and Suwaki would focus on the royal clan that the daimyo was a part of. Time skip. In Orochimaru words, Naruto was an anomaly. He had two natural, cooperative affinities, one of which that was strong enough to be considered a bloodline on its own. But when his two affinities combine, it created an extremely rare bloodline, Smoke Release. Smoke Release was not rare. After all, there was a clan in darkness that was made up of Smoke Release bloodline users alone. But it was strange. Naruto did not use water and fire affinity for Smoke Release. That was the strange part. He used lightning and water, and his lightning release was a bloodline on its own. Normally, lightning and water come together would make deadly effects, but Naruto lightning and water clash against each other to create smoke. That was something that confused Orochimaru a lot. At first, he thought that Naruto had darkness release, but it wasn't darkness that Naruto was releasing, it was actual smoke. And there was a hidden mystery of what was happening to his face under his mask. And then there was his quick speed when it comes to knowledge. He wasn't a prodigy or a genius, but he had a photographic memory. It didn't matter what Orochimaru threw at him, new or old. It would only take him a few seconds to adapt. His body reacted and moved fast. And his eyes were the scariest part to his friends and his families. They were warm and joyful, but to his enemies, they were nothing but cold, on fury, agonizing death. When he got angry, his eyes became black with red as they started to spin slowly, showing the madness behind it. No, he wasn't a prodigy or a genius. He was a beast. A phantom, some kind of a specter, something just different. He was a legend that parents told their kids late at night to keep them in line. He was part of the symbol of hope for the hidden reign. He was the symbol of unity for his country of darkness. Orochimaru did not know what he trained until it was too late. Naruto was someone who could make Orochimaru stop and hesitate. He was silent, he was careful, he was methodical, he was a ghost. At the moment, Naruto looked through his binoculars. It was the last place where the daimyo was. Him and his student had eradicated the others. He counted 28 guards. His eyes went up, more of them hidden. In total, there was 34. He placed his finger towards his ear. Can you sense the daimyo inside? As he pressed on the communicator. Yes, said Suwaki. I can sense the whole clan in there. She paused. I feel like they have escape tunnels. Maybe to Konoha. They do. Families like that always a contingency. In case something happened to their power. Then why are they still here when they can take the tunnels and go to Konoha? It's a trap. It's a pretty risky trap, Sensei, she said. Having all of his family here, just so that he could try and get you. Well, no one ever said that daimyo was smart, said Naruto. I can sense him, but not his wife or son. So he had them escape, but the rest of the clan did not notice anything off. Overprivileged idiots, she said. Are your senmon ready? Naruto asked. She pulled out a small needle with some red liquid inside. Yes, she said. Take out the two sensors at the top, and I'll handle the ones on the bottom. If the alarm goes off, the royal family will flee through the tunnels, maybe. Confirm your kills. Roger, she said. Any question? Just one. What is it? Why are we doing this again, she asked. She knew that he could just go over there and end this all by himself. But why are they ending the Darkness Civil War? Except for this being a great time to teach me a thing or two in assassination. And taking care of a well-protected family. I don't see the point, she said. He put away his binoculars. My mom always said that no matter the nature or gravity of a problem, a child will always return back home, or something like that. And I promised my pa I would come back to Darkness Country, whether the war ended or not. His father never asked him to meet that promise, but after listening to his stories about the Civil War, he had sworn that he would come back one day. It was going to be difficult now, know that people, well, know about him and his power. They would probably want him to stay. As Naruto could tell that she was not saying what was on her mind, judging from the small humming that he heard from the other side. What's wrong? She frowned. Am I not good enough for you, Sensei? She said. Naruto felt like he wouldn't say the right thing, so he changed the subject. I'll give you extra lessons if you confirm and collect more than 20 kills. extra train if you kill your 6 targets before I finish my 28 on the ground. Whatever, she said. That's the spirit, said Naruto. Are you ready? Yes, she said. But guys, if you ain't subscribed right here, if you want the next part, you can do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But I'm off now. See you guys soon. Peace.